We're coming to you today with a critical update regarding Tommy Robinson's ongoing ordeal, and we urgently need your support in sharing this information far and wide. The situation has reached alarming levels, and it is vital that the public is made aware of what is happening behind the walls of HMP Woodhill. Before we get into the details, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more. Just a quick one to say we have new Liber t-shirts available on our website. You can check the link in the description or go to BritishStand.com. Tommy Robinson has now been held in solitary confinement for over 128 days, enduring 22 hours a day locked in a cell. His crime? He showed the public a documentary that he was banned from sharing, and for that, he now faces an 18-month sentence. What's even more shocking is that the charge he's been sentenced for is a non-crime, a crime that quite frankly is a direct attack on free speech and the right to inform the public. Tommy's legal team, deeply concerned about the toll this is taking on his mental health, appointed an independent clinical psychologist with a doctorate and over 15 years of experience working in NHS forensic mental health. The resulting report has been nothing short of damning, with the psychologist categorically stating that Tommy's treatment amounts to mental torture. After conducting a thorough assessment, the psychologist diagnosed Tommy with ADHD and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD. The report directly links his ongoing solitary confinement to the reactivation of past trauma, stating that the conditions in which he is held are exacerbating his psychological vulnerabilities. The psychologist makes it clear solitary confinement is directly linked to the worsening of Tommy's CPTSD, and it is having a devastating effect on his mental well-being. Tommy himself has been open about the extreme psychological toll this has taken. He has said, "I've lost my head." He suffers from dark dreams and is jolted awake at 3 a.m. in a state of cold sweats. His sleep has become severely disrupted, and he reports constant feelings of paranoia and helplessness. Most heartbreaking of all, he is panicking about his children. This is the reality Tommy Robinson is facing every single day. The legal team, alarmed by this significant deterioration in Tommy's mental health, has launched an emergency court challenge. The case is focused on the violation of Tommy's human rights, as the conditions he is being subjected to are not only inhumane, but violate international standards for treatment of prisoners. To put this in perspective, the United Nations Mandela Rules, which govern the treatment of prisoners, state that solitary confinement beyond 15 days becomes cruel and inhuman. After this threshold, the treatment rapidly escalates towards what can only be described as torture. Tommy has now been locked away in solitary for nearly 130 days, and his health is deteriorating by the day. The expert psychological report makes it clear that the conditions he is enduring have already crossed the line into mental torture. The report highlights a cluster of severe symptoms, including post-traumatic stress, ADHD, hypervigilance, paranoia, traumatic sleep disruption, guilt, social withdrawal, and a sense of mental collapse. These symptoms are not transient, they are debilitating, worsening over time, and the prognosis is for lasting harm. This is not punishment, it's a calculated effort to break a man who dared to speak out, who dared to question the narratives being pushed forward. The state is using its power to silence Tommy Robinson, not by locking him up for a non-crime, but by systematically breaking his spirit through psychological and emotional torment. We need to sound the alarm. Tommy's case is not just about one man. It's about standing up against a system that seeks to punish those who speak the truth, to silence dissent, and to strip individuals of their fundamental human rights. Please share this message everywhere. Let people know what is happening. Let them see the evidence. We must keep up the fight to hold those in power accountable for this horrific treatment. In some other news, Rachel Reeves is preparing billions in welfare and public spending cuts ahead of her spring statement on March 26th, as her $9.9 billion fiscal headroom has reportedly disappeared. The Treasury is now targeting the growing welfare bill and unprotected government departments to address the shortfall. The planned cuts are intended to close the fiscal gap that has widened due to global economic instability. Treasury sources indicate that Reeves has earmarked several £billions in draft spending reductions. A key target is the rising cost of health-related benefits, which is projected to increase from £65 billion to £100 billion by the end of the decade. Officials argue that, given the rapid expansion of welfare spending, these reductions are necessary regardless of the current fiscal situation. Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall is expected to announce details of the welfare cuts in an upcoming speech. She has previously stated that the government is committed to cracking down on benefit fraud and ensuring that those who can work are supported back into employment. Kendall is advocating for major welfare reforms aimed at cutting billions from the UK's benefits bill by 2030 and hopes to persuade the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, that increasing workforce participation will strengthen public finances. With Labour keen to avoid deep spending cuts or tax hikes, the Treasury and the Department for Work and Pensions are in discussions with the OBR to maximise projected savings from the benefits overhaul. A government source noted that the economic landscape has shifted since the autumn budget, stressing that the UK must adapt to these changes by accelerating economic reforms. Headroom or no headroom, the Chancellor is determined to push through the changes needed to make Britain more secure and prosperous, the source added. Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood hinted at the planned welfare reductions, stating in a BBC Radio 4 interview that Labour believes in the value of work, both as a moral and practical necessity. She emphasized that many unemployed people want to work and that the current system is unsustainable. However, the proposed cuts have drawn criticism. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith accused Reeves of mishandling the fiscal situation, arguing that Labour should have prioritised spending reductions earlier rather than resorting to last-minute cuts. He described the move as another slap in the face for business. Meanwhile, the New Economics Foundation warned that the cuts could worsen living standards for the poorest and undermine the government's economic growth strategy. The think tank also criticised the government's self-imposed fiscal rules, arguing that Reeves could modify them rather than enforce harsh spending reductions. Politically, deep welfare cuts could be a challenge for Sir Keir Starmer, who already faces internal party pressure over reductions in international aid. Economists at the Institute for Fiscal Studies have also warned that Reeves has backed herself into a corner with rigid fiscal targets, leaving little flexibility to respond to changing economic conditions. So, what are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments. That brings us to the end of today's video. Hit the like and subscribe button for more British content. Oh, and don't forget to get your t-shirts at BritishStand.com. Link is in the description.